So we are quite far into the meta now with almost 1 month having passed, but somehow the top meta decks are still shifting and changing, so yeah, the meta is surprisingly fluid this time around. One thing we've confirmed though is that Mold Abyss is a pretty bad deck and there is no chance of it making it into the top meta. But it's my favorite deck to play this expansion for some reason, I don't know why, but I just really like to play it. So today's video will be showcasing more Mold Abyss. This time it's the pure control variant instead of the Shakudo one that I played last time. So this is the list we're playing for today. I threw it together after looking around at other people's mode lists and seeing how people are playing. I messed around quite a bit, but I feel like this ratio that I'm running here is the one that feels most comfortable to me, so I'm running it right now. The main idea is, of course, as mode decks have been since the release of Shavnacha, we have Shavnacha's Faith, which allows you to select multiple modes whenever you play a mode card and you use that to get a lot of value to control and overwhelm your opponent. Or just kill them sometimes with stuff like Rulanai. So the main new cards that we have, of course, as we covered last time, is Taketsume Itsurugi. This time though, we are playing more new cards. We have one of Alabaster Bahamut here. He helps you banish things, clear the boards. I don't really play him that much, but once in a while he comes in quite handy, so whenever that comes up, he's pretty useful, I guess. I'm also running two of Saras or Luna. I'm using the Luna skin because why not? But she's Saras, the other new legendary that Abyss got. Not really seeing much play, unfortunately, because she's just not that good right now. The Necromancy payoff is not that good compared to how much work it is to get to Necromancy 20, so yeah, but since it's a control deck, it might help you get enough power out of your cards to overwhelm your opponent in late game, so that is the idea. Other than that, we are running some standard mode stuff. We got new cards for mode as well, like Wills United, 2 costs that helps you clear board. And then Tyrannical Fist just helps you get more damage out. Our 3 cost lineup is a bit heavy here with both Depletive Outside and 1 copy of Bittersweet Departures, which does get in the way of this drawing 3 cost spell for Screaming and Loading, but right now there is quite a lot of tempo decks in the meta, so Depletive Outside is quite necessary, and Bittersweet Departures can do a lot of things, so just want 1 copy of it for it's just a good luck charm, I guess. Yeah, this is the list we're playing for today. Let's look at some games. So our first match is against Portal here, and we are going second. Storm Artifact Portal has become one of the most well-performing decks in the meta right now, so I guess it's a good matchup to include. Among the tempo decks, which are Storm Artifact Portal, and then we have Tempo Forest and Sword, I think Portal is the most manageable for this deck because it gives you the most leeway to get into late game compared to Forest and Sword, which snowball their early game very well, so relatively speaking, we're happier to see this than Sword or Forest, in my opinion. So for the mulligan, we keep Castle, and Supplicant and Devotee and Shamnacha are guaranteed keeps. The rest we keep based on matchup, I think. Screaming and Loading arguably is also pretty safe to keep, I think. But for this matchup, we want to focus on looking for early game aside from castles and the usual main keeps. So stuff like Depletive Outside we want in this matchup to answer their early game boards. Against Portal in particular, a lot of their early game is 1 follower boards. So with stuff like Wills United, Screaming and Loading is quite effective. Comparatively, Sword and Forest go wide early game, which is why those matchups can be a bit more annoying because you really desperately need the Depletive Outside for those matchups. Well, it opens with Imari here. We're just gonna go ahead and use the wheels to draw to clear that. The castle is a bit of a loss in tempo, so we coin it out early when we have a chance. We don't really need the coin in this matchup for anything in particular, so we don't really have to save it, and we can just use it here. Especially with a lot of 2 cost and 3 cost cards in our hand, we can smoothen out our curve a bit more by coining the castle early on. As you can see, my opponent is just playing 1 follower at a time, which is fine. We can just use 1. We have a lot of 1 removal cards. So we look at that. We're going to play Supplicant here just to put a little bit of presence on board to annoy my opponent with. We really want to save this Devotee in case we have to deal with Imari later on, which can become a problem. They are the main threat that you need to prepare for against this matchup is Imari's board and Ryzen / Scarlet, whichever you want to call it. Those are the main cards that you need to play around. As long as you play around those, you should generally be fine. So we pick follower here. The general rule of thumb with that I use for screaming and loathing, I don't know if it's that good, but the general rule of thumb is if you need more mode, you just pick spell, because all the 3 cost spells in this list have mode. So if you really need more mode count, just pick spell. But if you need a specific follower, like especially if you need Devotee Supplicant or Shamnacha, generally you pick follower. So it just depends on what you need at the time. In this case though, we can pick both because we can just use Wills United to clear the Isaac, I believe his name is. Yeah, Isaac. We could have advanced our mode more by using something in like Supplicant or Devotee and Evo. But we want to save those for removal, and we don't even see Shamnacha in our hand anyway, so there's not really any need to desperately rush our mode count. So we just tried to find Shamnacha here, didn't really find it. Here I made a very silly play. If you're wondering why I did this, I would say this is probably a misplay and just overall a bad use of resources. The reason why I did this is because for some reason I thought I had to play around Scarlet, even though my opponent doesn't have the play points to play Scarlet. So yeah, that was just a dumb play on my part, but we'll get over it, I guess. Unfortunately, still no Shamnacha, which isn't ideal. Thankfully though, my opponent goes easy on me here with just a regular Evo on Campusilla, which makes this board much more manageable. A worst case, Congregant clear. Well, Congregant won't clear. Yeah, actually, Congregant wouldn't have cleared if they didn't do this. Oh, it would have left one of the followers alive, so I guess it was good of my opponent to go easy on me here. And Super Evolve Congregant here. Generally, Congregant after Shamnacha's active is a very, very powerful tempo card. You can just win off of it a lot of the time, because a lot of decks just can't clear a full Congregant board after Shamnacha. In this case though, we don't have Shamnacha's effect, so we just focus on clearing their board. Put one big follow on board here, which again makes it hard for them to send Scarlet into my face, which is good. Mew goes face very easily compared to Scarlet, but it costs them a super evil point to do it, so as long as we are draining their resources, it's not that big of a deal. And finally we use Warp Slash to clear. Thankfully we do manage to pick up Shamnacha here, which is very nice. We're gonna go ahead and drop that. Go ahead and draw into our deck here, and then we, as we said earlier, Congregant is a very powerful tempo card. And we just go ahead and clear that board. Normally I super evolve the one without ward and then summon a ward +2, but in this case we need 3 trades, so we have to do it this way instead. Which is fine, it's not that big of a deal. But then we'll use Imari here. Imari is one of the few cards that can clear this board quite cleanly, so that's not great for us. I'm probably go ahead and use Sincerity to transform my big Congregant here. Free running as well to go wide, and then they can use the Ancient Artifact to trade. And then hit my Congregant here, and then they'll use Warp Slash to clear this board. So a bit unfortunate that my strong board got cleared, but from this point on we should be able to stabilize. Because they're out of evil points, their ability to clear board is much weaker than ours. We still have 3 copies of Itsurugi and Taketsumi in the deck, so we are relatively fine right now, I would say. We just have to make sure to heal off their damage, and then we can slowly ramp up towards playing Luna and then setting up a big burst turn to finish them off with. So to that end, we go ahead and recover shadows here to make sure that we can play Luna at some point. But once my opponent gives me a free turn, I go ahead and play Luna, which is quite easy against Portal, because once they run out of EO points, the things they like to do is going wide here with a bunch of small followers, which Depletive Outside deals with quite cleanly, which gives you quite a free reign to just drop Luna, as you can see here. Go ahead and drop Luna, and then we can just use Depletive Outside to clear that board here. And we use Screaming and Loathing. Honestly, I probably should have played Screaming and Loathing first, and then played Luna after that, but you know, I guess this is what I decided to do. I can play the Depletive Outside as well to just do... I don't know why I did that, honestly. I guess they recovered the last evil point. So then it goes for the Ludicrous Ordnance here, which is quite strong, but unfortunately for them, they are dead. Even if we didn't have lethal here, we just had Taketsumi Itsurugi, clear their board, click chipping damage, and we will eventually find lethal since they don't run healing in their deck anyway. But in this case, we do have lethals here, so we can go ahead and use Rulana and Valneric. Rulana and Valneric is our main finisher, so discounting is quite good. Allows it to pair up with stuff like Gilnalis as well. Another thing that Rulana pairs up well with discounted is Taketsumi and Itsurugi, who cost 4 in total, so that's it for this game. Our next matchup here against Haven, we are going second again. Haven is a pretty bad matchup. If I had to... Like, this deck doesn't have good matchups. The only deck that this completely stomps is Destruction Portal. It's like basically impossible to lose the Destruction Portal. Other than that, this deck basically matches up quite poorly into every other deck in the format right now. So yeah, not really a recommended deck if you're trying to climb, I guess. Haven and Dragon are the especially bad matchups. After that, it's Sword and Forest, and then after that, Portal is my vibe right now. Oh, Crystal Runes is quite difficult. Spell Boost is probably manageable if they don't just Lingo you to death, but no one's playing Spell Boost anyway, so... So in this matchup, you really need to save the Evo point because what Haven decks are doing right now is they use amulets and stuff like Zoe to set out a massive board. So keeping this extra play point will help maximize the chance that you can clear their big board when they do it. So that's why you really need to keep it in this matchup, in my opinion at least. Chanacha is quite nice. We can go ahead and use Wills United to clear the Lilium here. One drops Wing Lion statue is very bad for us. This amulet plus Zoe sets up very annoying boards, which they just refuse to give as good board clears in Mode Haven. I mean Mode Abyss, so we just have trouble with those boards, unfortunately. Good cheap board clears, I should say. We have Taketsumi and Itsurugi, which is the premier late game board clear, but unfortunately it's not effective early on. For now, we go ahead and evolve the Devotee. We do float one play point here, but my mental budget thing is that this allows me to open up options like Supplicant Evo plus Wills United for a total of 9 damage ping to the board plus a trade, which can potentially allow us to clear Hamza plus Colette, which is the idea. Although I think a lot of people are cutting Hamza right now, so maybe that's not really necessary to worry about so much. But then goes for Zoe here though, which is fine for us. Relatively weak turn, which allows us to stabilize a bit, which is good. Well, use Supplicant here to heal off the damage. Put like a medium-sized follow on board to hopefully force them to trade a bit, which makes it makes their board more manageable. Is the idea. And we just coin Cyclone to draw into our deck. Small optimization here. The correct play is to play the Cyclone first before evolving in case we top deck the Granagita of the Cyclone. So just minor correction there, but probably doesn't end up mattering too much. No, I'll go ahead and evolve Lilium here to clear my Supplicant, and then they drop the what's his place through here. Very weak turn from them here, which is very good for us. If they had a much stronger board here, we'd actually be in trouble, but yeah, that's what makes this a bad matchup. It's just that if Haven like curves well, we just can't deal with their board. So as long as they don't manage to do that, we can hopefully win in the late game. Although in the late game, it would depend on how many copies of Olivia they draw, because with enough copies, they can definitely outscale us, and even in the late game with Verdelia's Crest as well. Okay, they do have Verdelia, unfortunately, which isn't great for me. They will go ahead and clear my Shamnacha, which is annoying, I guess. And for sure, we are forced to spend our last Evo point here, our last Super Evo point here, with Congregant to clear this board. Thankfully though, since it's a Congregant, we can set out a fairly strong board along the way. So I think I did this in the wrong order. I think having the ward have more health is like a very minor optimization here. And having this go down to 1, as you can see, it goes down to 3. The main way they have of dealing damage to this Congregant of Entwining is a Zoe's Fanfare, and whether it's at 3 or 1, it still dies to Zoe's Fanfare anyway. So I think a small optimization would have been to keep the ward at 8 and keep this Congregant at 1 at 6-1 instead, but you know, more optimization, I guess. We'll play Lyria here, and then they will have the Zoe here, which unfortunately will allow them to clear my stuff. So this full clears no matter how I did the buff, so it doesn't end up mattering, but I guess it's something to keep in mind. My opponent does have this very, very powerful 0-cost Rush Bane, which will allow them to clear my board fully, which isn't great for me. winning off Congregant is one of the best ways to win with this deck in general, so... And unfortunately, we are forced to use Itsurugi and Taketsumi here to clear the board and draw into our deck more. I played the Fist here. There is an argument for going Chaos Cyclone instead. My thought process was that if I just chip them low, it makes it harder for them to land, or it makes it easier for me to find lethal at some point. Plus, we saw them invoke Sandalphon, so they are playing Sandalphon in their deck, which I guess is obvious. Sandalphon will hit us quite low, which means that it can be very hard to find a room to play 2 Tyrannical Fists. In order to play 2 of them, you need to make sure I need to make sure I have more health than them, right? So, the less number of Tyrannical Fists you play, the easier it is to get it on the field. So, not getting on the field, get it in play. So, I decided to play it here while I have the chance. And hopefully I can chip them down enough where I can find a lethal before they get a chance to heal is the logic that I was working off of, I guess. And then goes Olivia here. Thankfully we pick up this Devotee, which is very nice top deck. Allows us to full clear this board. Although I don't really like the fact that we have spent our second Taketsumi and Itsurugi already. Taketsumi and Itsurugi is very valuable just in general, including in this matchup, I guess, so yeah. We go ahead and play Devotee here so we don't overdraw. If we play Screaming and Loading, we will overdraw here, so we save that for when we need to recover resources later on. My opponent will send Sandalphon into my face, which is not ideal for me. Take a bunch of damage here. We can go ahead and use Zoe to clear this. Unfortunately, we don't get the 3 damage to the face. I don't think we had lethal here, so yeah, we had no choice but to pick the healing and the board clear to make sure that we don't die before we get to kill them. Go ahead and heal up here. Opponent will go ahead and drop the Abyssal Researcher here, which is their Bane card, and they will Super Evolve Gildan Leaves, which is quite bad for me because that means they full heal. But at this point, my opponent has healed off all the damage we've worked hard to deal with, and then we take a Sandalphon to the face as well. You have to keep in mind they have Gildan Leaves spell in hand, so there's a lot going on right now that is not in our favor. So we try to find our last copy of Itsurugi and Taketsumi here. Unfortunately, we don't quite pick it up. We'll go ahead and drop the Shamnacha here, or the Luna here, and the Shamnacha as well. I can use Congregant to clear this board while setting out a ward, which can hopefully protect our face a bit more. And we have Luna here to heal out of range of Gildan Lee's spells, so that is the idea. And then we go super wide here in case they're running a third Sandalphon or something. We can hopefully dodge Sandalphon using these followers, and as well as hoping to stick followers on board to chip damage so we can hopefully look for a lethal at some point. Opponent goes for Verdelia and Castel here, which is pretty weak from them, which is quite good for us. I guess they're holding on to this amulet for some reason, which is good. Allows us to have more followers on board to chip damage with. The Sham's effect is active so many times we can activate every effect on the spell, so that's pretty cute. You can use Gildan Leaves here to chip damage. There's an argument for saving it to heal it outside, but I think probably can do a similar thing with Supplicant or something. We do manage to deal a lot of damage this time, which is quite nice for us, and we heal up as well, which keeps us a bit safer. My opponent makes a mistake trading here. It doesn't end up mattering because based on what they play here, we have lethal anyway, but yeah, my opponent did misplay there by trading into the Luna for no reason. Since my opponent was kind enough to leave this much of my board alive for us, we are gonna go ahead and evolve Luna here for lethal. Just to give Luna time to shine. Just punch them in the face with these Shamnacha. So that's it for this game. And our last match here is against Sword. Again, we're going second. Contrary to what it looks like, this deck it's not like this deck particularly does well going second or anything. It's just that the matches I had that I wanted to showcase happened to be all going second, so yeah. So Castle and Replica are standard keeps. The rest we hope to start to deal with their early game. Quick Blader on 1 is the last thing we want to see. Usually when Sword curves very perfectly, it's like basically unwinnable. So we just have to hope they don't curve perfectly here. We go ahead and use Will to clear the Quick Blader here. Opponent will pass, which is great, gives us some breathing room to draw into our deck of Cast Off and Twining. I would say usually you save the coin for a coining Depletive Outside on turn 3 or something like that, but since we didn't have Depletive Outside in hand, that wasn't really an option, so I just chose to deal with the Quick Blader instead. Arguably, it would be better to save the coin for Screaming and Loading, but you know, I guess that's what I decided to do here. Opponent goes for a High Strung Liaison here, which is the bane of this deck because High Strung Liaison survives Depletive Outside. And the one night it summons makes it not guaranteed to clear with Screaming and Loading either, so yeah, this thing's pretty annoying. For some reason they decided to not give Mold any like targeted damage removal, and it's all random damage, so once your opponent... So the Liaison just like hits a really annoying sweet spot for this deck. But we'll just go ahead and try to clear our opponent's board as best as we can while we activate Mold, I guess, and try to just activate our win con. If we manage to survive with enough help to late game, we can win this matchup usually, unless our opponent like hits a really strong curve with something like double Mars into Gildaria plus Bunny Baron or something like that. But usually you should have enough healing to survive the late game, barring like massive high rolls. The main point of care is actually just Cesar. And early Cesar can be quite annoying for this deck to clear, so you just have to watch out for that mainly. But no more Evolve Zeta Bay here, we take a bunch of damage, which is not great, but thankfully we do pick up Shamnatra here, which is great. And go ahead and try to heal off the damage we've taken from this Zeta Bay Evo here. You can see we're very low right now. Go ahead and clear here. Pre-depleted Outside in hand isn't really great right now, but you know, hopefully we can find Taketsumi Itsurugi at some point. Once we play Evolve Cesar here, and then they'll hit us in the face. So this is a very useful trick to remember with this deck, is Wheels United Reanimate 2. Also works with Chaos Cyclone. This deck only runs 1/2 cost follower, and that's Shamnatra, so you can reanimate Shamnatra here, which allows you to use her very strong Super Evo effect for clearing followers. So we go ahead and draw into our deck, as well as use this Depletive Outside here. Unfortunately, we didn't pick up Taketsumi and Itsurugi, so we are in a bit of trouble here in terms of answering my opponent's stuff. Here's Cesar here. Cesar isn't great because he costs an Evo point to be actually useful removal. And we don't have Sword followers in this deck either for him to buff, so... Not great, but I mean, we had to use it. We had to steal it to remove it, so... Yeah. I think my opponent has a very weak turn here with their Medic, which they use to draw into their deck. Usually, Congregant just wins the game against Sora on the spot unless they have Nat and Vince. But unfortunately, we don't have Super Evo points for that, so we have to play the long con here. So go ahead and evolve Supplicant here. There is an argument for saving for not evolving the Supplicant, but I think healing out is just very important right now. And there is the Mars that we were worried about. And they will save their Evo point here, I guess, which is fine, makes sense. We're just gonna go ahead and clear that board while healing and keeping ourselves healthy, so that we hopefully don't die. I'll use Metronomic Medic again here, they'll go ahead and draw into their deck more. Plus a Quick Blader and a Steady Knight to just, I guess, pressure me on board here, which is annoying, but it's fine. And go ahead and use these Congregants. To clear the board while setting out a pretty massive one of our own. Hopefully we can spend them to spend their last Evo point if they have an answer to this at all. Again, if they have an answer to this like Nana, honestly we'll be in trouble because you can see from our hand we don't have a good answer for it. But I mean, we haven't drawn a single Taketsumi and Itsurugi, so hopefully at some point that happens. But lucky for me, they just didn't have Nana, so they just couldn't clear this board, so they end up winning from the board pressure instead. So that's a pretty common way to win against Sword, honestly. It's just overwhelming your opponent with a Congregant. But worst case, you should be able to stall out in the late game with Taketsumi and Itsurugi if you actually draw them. In this case though, we just won off just barely hanging on and swinging the board tempo here. So yeah, with Itsurugi and with Rule 9 vulnerate his lethal, we finally draw Itsurugi and Taketsumi here, but it's a bit late, so yeah. We just go ahead and use the Rule 9 here for lethal, and my opponent concedes, I think, or they don't concede. So that's it for this game. So those are all the games I have for you today. Hopefully it gave you some idea of how this deck works. I want to say it gave you an idea of where the strengths of this deck, but this deck isn't really strong at all. It has a non-existent early game, which means that Dragon preys on it, and it doesn't have very good early game answers either, which means tempo decks can also overrun you quite easily. Also loses to Haven's very powerful mid-game board, so like I don't know what this deck is supposed to win against besides Destruction Portal, which I guess is the reason why this deck isn't considered good right now. But it's the most fun deck in the format for me right now, so it's the one I've been playing. I prefer this version over the Shakudo version as well, because it feels like less gimmicky in my opinion. So yeah, anyway, that's it for today's video. See you next time. Bye bye.